So today we're going to be talking about solving system of equations by way of elimination. Now remember, a system of equation is a fancy way of saying two or more equations, and each equation is going to represent a line, and your goal is to find the solution or where the lines intersect. And of course, the solution is given in an ordered pair. Now, when you're doing elimination, you are not doing graphing. So what does elimination mean? Elimination is just telling you to cancel one of the variables out of the two. Therefore, you're just left with one variable and you're solving for that one variable. In order to master elimination, you have to know how to find or create additive inverse operations. And additive inverse operations is just telling you that they're opposites. One is positive and one is negative. And together they are a zero pair. Negative 17y plus 17y, another zero pair. You have x minus x, once again, a zero pair. So your job is to create that zero pair to eliminate one of the variables. Now there are three types of elimination problems. The first is they give you the zero pair. The next type of question is they don't give you a zero pair, but you will have to multiply a -1 to the entire equation in order to get the zero pair or create the zero pair. But it's pretty obvious where the zero pair is. And then there are equations that don't give you a zero pair or even close to it, and you're going to have to multiply a real number like -2 to everything in order to create that zero pair. I'm going to go through each type of question and show you how to approach and compute the system of equation through elimination problem. Let's look at our first example where they give you the zero pair. If they give you the zero pair, just cross it out and then compute, or you're going to add vertically the rest of the equation. So I have plus 12y plus a 2y, so I'm left with 14y equals 15 plus 29, and that's going to be 44. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to divide the 14 on both sides. That's going to leave me with y equals around 3.14. All right. So now I know the y value, and all I have to do now is plug it into one of the original equations. So here I wrote one of the equations, and all I'm going to do now is input the 3.14 into the y, like so. So now I'll compute the 2 times 3.14, and I'm going to get 6.28, and I'll bring down everything else that I didn't touch. And now I have to solve for x, and I'm going to start with addition and subtraction. I'm going to minus the 6.28 on both sides. And I'm left with 3x equals 22.72. All right, so now the last step I'm going to do is divide by 3. Divide by 3 on both sides, and I'm left with x equals around 7.57. That'll give us a solution of 7.57 and the y value of 3.14. So these are the key steps we took in order to solve the system of equation through elimination. You could pause the video and you can read through them, but if you do a couple of the problems, I'm sure the steps will become natural to you and you won't have to even read the key steps. Next, we have an equation or a system of equations where you don't have a zero pair. You actually have two positive 3y's. In order to solve this problem or to eliminate or to create elimination, you have to create that zero pair. And in order to do that, you're going to multiply one of the equations by a -1. And when you do that, you see you're going to create that zero pair through distributive property. Now you got to remember, if you're going to multiply -1 to the entire equation, you're going to multiply that -1 to the entire equation. So you're actually going to get -5x minus 3y equals a positive 19, because two negatives equal a positive. And then you'll just take the other equation and you'll put it below the one you just did, and you'll see now we have that zero pair. And we could cross it off and we could solve for x. So let's do it. Minus 5x plus 8x is going to be 3x equals 19 minus 25 is going to be a -6. And we have to divide 3 on both sides. And I'm left with x equals -2. So now that we know the x value, we could substitute it into one of the other equations. And let's choose the one we didn't play around with yet. So we're going to plug in the -2 and solve for y. 8 times -2 is -16, plus 3y equals -25. I'm going to plus 16 on both sides, and I'm left with 3y equals -9. And my last step, I'll divide 3 on both sides, and I'm left with y equals -3. And that'll give us our solution of -2, -3. And of course, you want to plug it into the other equation to make sure it works with both equations so you know you have the correct solution. The system we're going to talk about is, for elimination, is where you're not giving a zero pair and you're not even given a coefficient that is easy to create that zero pair. So in order to create that zero pair, you're going to have to multiply the entire equation or one of the entire equations by a real number. In this case, we're going to do -2 because that's going to create that zero pair. So let's go ahead and do distributive property to the top equation with -2. So I'm going to get -2x plus y equals a positive 12. And then I'm going to rewrite the other equation right underneath it and then solve through elimination. And here I see I have a -2x plus 2x. That's going to be our zero pair. I cross it out. I'm left with y. And all I have to do is add vertically. So remember, there's an imaginary 1 right there. And it's going to be 4y equals 28. My last step is I divide 4 on each side. And I'm left with y equals 7. So I'm halfway there. I know my y value. Therefore, I have to substitute it into another equation. I'm going to choose the one we did not play around with yet. So I'm going to plug that y value right into, or right next to the 3. And I'm going to solve for x. So I'm left with 2x plus 21 equals 16. I'm going to minus 21 on both sides first. I'm left with 2x equals 16 minus 21 is going to be a -5. And then I'll divide 2 on both sides, and I'm left with x equals 2.5. And that should give us our solution of 2.57. Of course, you want to check your answer and plug them into or substitute them into the equations and see if they come out correctly. Now it's time for you to try a few problems. So if you pause here and when you finish the problem, you're ready to reveal the answer, you'll unpause. Until then, try your best. Try this problem now. Hopefully you got both problems correct, and therefore you should be starting the music and having a dance party. And remember, the only time success comes before work is in the dictionary. And this has been a Struggling Student Productions. If you like the video, please press like at the bottom and subscribe to our page.